So, the final episode of the first season of the 2023 adaptation of Goosebumps has dropped, and I have since watched it and sat on it for a little bit, and I'm recording this a little ahead of when it's going to come out, but this all happened fairly recently, is my point. And I'll say it right out the gate. This episode had a lot of problems still, and when you guys actually commented on my last video on the series about what some of those were, and I, for the most part, agree with you. I liked this one better than the last one, though. I want to make that clear. Since I can't find any actual good footage of it anywhere, I'm just going to describe to you what happened really quick, in brief. The kids were all on a trip in the previous episode, looking to where did they go? Seattle, I think. Looking to see if Margot wanted to move to Seattle, which Lucas is very upset about because he does not want to move to Seattle. He wants to stay in town, and they're sort of dating at this point. And that was the annoying angst stuff that I talked about in the previous video. It was just insufferable. But it does get Lucas heading back to town ahead of the other kids this time, which means he falls victim to Slappy before anybody else. Turns out that turn you into a puppet thing that Slappy does not automatically kill you. The implication is that when Biddle turned his parents into puppets with the spell, they were destroyed at some time later. Which already fixes one issue I had with the previous episode. I'm a little more chill now about the fact that Mr. Brat actually accidentally got somebody turned into a weird puppet man because it didn't actually kill him outright. And this is a good twist, because the event of the previous episode did exactly what it was supposed to. It got me angry, just not necessarily, I think, for the reasons that the writers on the show wanted me to be. And then we find out what the out is in this episode with some lore that explains further what this condition actually entails. And Lucas himself falls victim to it as well. He sees a vision of his dad, who is dead, claiming to have been in the witness protection program this whole time. And the moment that he accepts that the vision is real, he is turned into the puppet. And we see that this is a thing. It all happens in a second inside your head. Slappy shows you a vision, and if you accept the vision as real, even for a second, he has control of you. And it makes sense that these guys look like puppets because he can control them now. And I gotta say, that is a cool magical ability. I really liked that, actually. I really liked how that worked, because you didn't need to contrive a way for the other kids to not be affected by this. Like, Lucas's biggest vulnerability is his dad, and he's already feeling vulnerable anyway because his sort of girlfriend is probably going to leave. And the other kids, though, they're suspicious of basically everything because they've been through everything they've been through. So without that extra vulnerability that Lucas is feeling right now, they're able to, some of them anyway, are able to work out that the visions aren't real, and the others are saved by the ones who do. Which means that they're all able to go and make an attempt to stop Slappy. But, I still... My biggest problem with the episode is that I do not buy that would have made a difference. Because he controls literally the entire town. If he really wanted to stop them, like, he has a plan for all those people. We find out what that burning tower is that we've seen a couple of times in like weird flashes elsewhere in the series. Is in this one he plans to effectively Burning Man, I think it was like 1,000 souls or something, in order to open the floodgates of supernatural beings, returning the earth to a state where things like the various Goosebumps exist all over the place again, so that humanity will have to unite against them. Which is the thing I'll talk about in a minute. But even though he is anxious to implement this plan, he decides that since he can't control the kids, he doesn't need them anymore. He could have taken his puppets off of building his giant Burning Man and then killing themselves. Sorry, unaliving themselves. I forgot we're on the internet. He could have taken them away from that for like a couple hours while they went and ripped the teenagers apart or something, right? Instead, he takes them to his tent on the building site, where he's kept Mr. Brad alive too for some reason that is completely inexplicable to me. And then he tells them the rest of his backstory. He was the body he was resurrected into is his original body. He was a soldier who was mortally wounded with a gunshot, but happened to find himself in a temple before he died, where he was able to read the weird writing on the wall, casting a spell upon himself that healed him, but then also imbued him with all the magic stored within that place, and that's how he got real magic powers. He then later befriended a puppet maker and tried to use his new friend's influence to spread his magic to enough people to do his giant Burning Man thing. But his puppet maker friend didn't like that and used Slappy's own magic against him, trapping him in the puppet. And there are some things about this episode that make a lot of sense. That backstory, I think it's pretty cool. I don't know if it's drawn from anything in the greater Goosebumps lore that I don't know about or something. It felt very original to me, in terms of this franchise anyway. And I thought it was pretty stinking cool. And I can buy, totally, that some weird guy who was dying and was then changed by magic could be compelled to rationalize a reason to use that magic to summon a bunch of evil things, which might have been what the magic wanted him to do all along. So even his goofy plan to unite everybody makes sense in the context of that, which I thought was very cool. It gave him a really neat motivation. And it's not like it just comes out of nowhere either. Like, this is somebody who he's rationalizing this choice, and so he's willing to make any sacrifice to get to that point. So all of his evil actions make sense. It works really well. I thought it was really good. And no offense to Lucas or the actor who plays him, because I did like him throughout the rest of the season. But, my God, the moment he turns into a puppet, the dynamic between these kid characters just goes back to being awesome again. I liked everything about their interactions here. These are very talented young actors. Even the little bit of angst we got in this episode was really fantastic, where Isaiah talks to Margot and finally confesses that he has feelings for her, and basically says, "This is silly, we've been friends forever. There's no reason for me not to have told you this before, but I like you. I want us to try to be together." But, like, he does it in such a respectful way, and a way that is still in keeping with their dynamic. And it feels so natural. The dialogue between them feels so natural, and her reaction is so natural, because clearly she's been pining for him this entire time, too. So her confession that she's always had feelings for him makes perfect sense, and it was a cute moment. I liked it. These actors are great together. Every scene they're in together, just perfect. So all that is on the right track, too. Even the kid's plan, once Slappy turns his back on them for a second, to use one of his own spells to try to catch him in an illusion that when he accepts it, he'll turn into their puppet, makes sense. They have all the information they need to know that that's how it would work. And the idea that they got from his own story to bring back his puppet maker friend and say, hey, we resurrected him the same way you resurrected yourself so that he could help us defeat you because he beat you once before. But then the illusion of him that they conjured says, no, Slappy, actually, I have changed my mind. I want to make up for my betrayal and side with you now. That makes so much sense. They pulled it from all of the knowledge that they had gathered about this person and his motivations and his history up to this point and applied it perfectly. The only weakness in their plan is the fact that because Slappy is like he has a real name, I don't know what it was. Slappy is like the embodiment of this magic right now. It doesn't actually affect him. He can just shake it off. But even that gives them the idea that they end up using to defeat him, removing the magic from him, returning him to the state he was in when he cast that spell on himself in the first place, turning him back into that dying soldier who was then attacked by the dark things he was trying to unleash, which also leads very well into the final twist of the episode. Returning him to that state gives him back the pistol that he had when he was that soldier. And so he uses it to try to shoot Margot, because she's the one holding the magic book where he wrote down all his magic notes with, I would imagine, a magic pen on magic paper. And Isaiah jumps in the way because he loves her and he's just that kind of guy. He's just a good guy. I firmly believe he would have jumped in the way if it had been any of the others. But it makes it even more tragic because it was her. And so in the end, she uses the same spell on him to prevent him from dying. But that sets him up to be a villain of the next season. Because he'll have this magic in him now, or maybe it sets her up, because maybe since she's the one who cast the spell, she'll have the magic in her. Either way, it creates an interesting dynamic between the two of them that's perfect and ripe for conflict. And not like cheap conflict, but conflict that derives naturally from the narrative of the show. Unfortunately, it does some other really stupid things, too. Slappy leaving the kids alive when he had no reason to, and then telling them his history and giving them the chance to use it against him was stupid. It is so stupid. I do not believe that this character is this stupid. He's a master manipulator who has been playing this long game for, I don't know, what war was he in? It doesn't matter. A long frickin' time. He's not dumb enough to do that. And then sicking the silly vampire dog from the previous episode on them, thinking that would be enough to kill them, was stupid. Leaving Mr. Brat alive was stupid. It's Mr. Brat who destroys the stupid vampire dog. Like, why leave Mr. Brat alive once he got what he wanted from him? Was he actually planning to honor his deal and let Mr. Brat write this all down in a book so that he could sell it to a publisher? Like, does the world he's making have room for that kind of thing in the first place? Why wouldn't he then, cast the illusion on Mr. Brat that he had done those things, turning Mr. Brat into one of those puppets and adding him to the sacrificial pyre? Like, that seems like what he would do, right? Fortunately, though, Mr. Brat does get to redeem himself a little bit here. He has some great dialogue with the kids. Again, his interactions with the young actors, one of the best things about this show, where he is very believably remorseful for the decision he made. And even gets a really fantastic raw line that I absolutely loved. He says, "I'm a good enough writer to know I'm not a good enough writer." Like, I felt that in my soul, man. It was so good. And it's a little goofy because, again, his characterization here feels very radically out of step with his characterization in the previous episode. But Justin's a pro. He handles it well. And it really speaks to the strength of the character stuff throughout the rest of this episode, that I do think I'm willing to overlook the stupidity of this one and say that I actually liked this finale. It wasn't blow you away amazing or anything, but it was better than the last one. And the moments and the ideas of the characters and the dynamics between the characters made up for a lot of the stupidity in my mind. I don't know if I've used these exact words, but I've said in my other discussions of these episodes that this show is less like a horror show or even a horror mystery show and more just like a supernatural drama. So I do appreciate them choosing to focus on good character interactions above the logic of the plot. Also, Slappy seems kind of insane, to use an unfortunate term. He seems unstable and like his mind has been warped by the magic. Let me put it that way. And so maybe his dumb decisions stem from that. Maybe some part of him wanted to be defeated. Maybe he really is so convinced that he's doing the right thing that he does want to try to help as many people as possible, and he just only decided to kill the kids, that it was necessary to kill the kids and Mr. Brat by the point where he's like, well, they're here, they're locked away in here. I mean, they're sequestered away in here, surrounded by my puppet minions. This dog should be enough to handle them, right? I could squint enough to buy into that. It could have been so much better if they had just worked through some of the logical hiccups a little more. Just a little more. But I still think it works fairly well as a finale for this season. You gotta remember, we can't condemn shows for their first seasons. That is a thing that has grown out of our binge culture. That it just kills shows with potential long before that potential can be reached. And I still feel like this show has a lot of potential. I think we need to cut this finale some slack, appreciate the good things about it, and hope that the show manages to reach more of its full potential coming next season, assuming that it gets a next season. I think the lore that we did get, and specifically the interactions between these characters performed by these actors, I think all of that is strong enough to justify wanting that. And Slappy as a villain has a chance to redeem himself, logically speaking, because now he's the ghost possessing Mr. Brat. Which means Mr. Brat's not going to be himself next season either. That's a genuine bummer. But that seems to be the dynamic they're going for with the characters, so I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt and see where this goes, assuming that it goes anywhere. I will admit, though, the second season isn't a pretty big step up from this one. I'll probably drop the show at that point. I don't regret watching this, though. Even episode 9 that I just hated. And I still don't feel like the good of this episode is good enough to make up for that. But even accounting for the fact that I just hated one of these episodes, I still enjoyed watching this show. I'm going to go back to recommending it, frankly. Just, be cautious of the things I've said. But yeah, I'm going to go back to recommending it again. I think it's worth giving a shot, at least. All in all, though, I don't really have much more to say about this one. So what did you guys think of this episode? If you have seen it, what did you think of the season overall? Are you in the same boat as I am, wanting this show to have the chance to really find its footing? Or do you think they should just pull the plug on it now and get it over with? Let's get a discussion going in the comment section down below. And while you're down there, you might as well like the video, share it with anyone else you think would enjoy my content, subscribe if you haven't. You can also check out the video description for links to my various social medias, as well as to the link where you can purchase my first 3 novels, which are currently on sale. Help me to succeed where Mr. Brat failed. In the meantime, though, this has been AJ22, and I will talk to you guys later.